Question 2. So if we're going to find the x-intercepts of this graph, we first of all need the graph. First thing I would do is look at the range that you're given, and I would, with my calculator, I would set the range. So we need a graph. Let's get a new graph, and I would set the range to and the domain to that we have given in the questions. So window zoom, window settings, and I'll change the x values from 0 to 5, a scale of 1 as it is on the question, and y values from 7 to -5, a scale of 1. -7, -5 to 7, sorry. Helps if you get the minimum and the maximum ways around. And then we type in the graph, so 4x minus e to the power of x minus 2 minus 3. And we have a graph that is here. So the next thing we need to do is to find the x-intercept. So we go to menu, analyze graph, 0. We find 1, the lower bound, and the upper bound. Now here I have a 0.827, which is just about okay. If we do analyze graph 0 here, then I have 4.78. Now, and this can cause a bit of a problem sometimes, just having 3 significant figures. So one thing I would always recommend that you do is go to your calculator. Actually, once you've done this, you shouldn't need to then redo it. But if you go to settings and change the display digits, these graphing angle and geometry angle should always be on radians, and change to float 5, then we get much more accurate numbers. You should then write down the whole number, and then you can round it off. The current accuracy instructions for these questions state that if you write a correct number to more than the required number of significant figures and then round it off, even if you round it incorrectly, you'll still get the full marks. So you need to record those answers. X equals 0.827 and x equals 4.78. Now, to sketch the graph, we need to look at the key features. Now, because I've set the window to exactly the same size as it was before, that gives me an extra advantage, because I'm not going to go outside the range. You do get penalised from the IB if you go outside the range. And the other thing they'll be looking for is is the maximum in the right place, and they'll put a little circle on the mark scheme, and the examiner must see your maximum going in the right place. So it would probably just help you to very quickly analyze graph, look at the maximum, and just find out where that is. So I'm going to want to do about 3.4, 6.5 is where my graph is going to be. So what I would do is I'll get my pen, 3.4 ish, 6.5. I'm gonna make sure I go to that point there. The zeros we had were about 0 just before 1 and just before 5, so we get those. And these minimum values here is also worth noting, about 3, just under 3 for both the minimum and the maximum. So those are other important areas. So we're going to want just before 1, just before 5, and we want to go down to around about -3. So it's always worth putting these points in first and then trying to sketch. Now your sketch may be accurate, it may look better than mine. There we go. Okay, this is not such a good arm, but that's okay. Okay, a bit wobbly there, but with a pencil and paper on a flat piece of paper you should be able to draw a slightly more accurate sketch. But that's the idea. And this is write down the gradient of f at x equals 3. Literally, when it says write down, you don't have to show any of your calculations. You certainly don't have to differentiate it yourself. You have to go to your calculator. Your calculator will do that for you. So menu, analyze graph again, this time dy by dx. Position, what value do I want? I want it when x equals 3, so I enter 3, and I have this value here, which I can just move so we can see. So 1.28 is the gradient of the graph of f at x equals 3.